Intro music.
Overview narration.
Doctor!
My name is James.
My name is Joey.
And this is the Brothers Padre.
James, the podcast to end the 2023 season has come upon us.
2022 season.
You know, it's tough. My brain, you know where my brain is? In 2023 already. We did not record. If you're following along in Padres baseball, you would have noticed, hey, you guys didn't record the day after the playoffs. Very astute observation.
Yes.
Very good.
That's because, unlike the rest of the internet, my brother and I are adults.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, if we record right now, our entire podcast will be angry, filled with emotions, and bad judgment calls. So we said, let's give it a day or two.
Yeah.
Think about our thoughts. Take a moment to, analyze what the season really was. And then let's do a podcast so we don't just shoot from the hip and sound like morons.
Right. As opposed to normally where we just sound very unmoronic.
Hey, man. Listen, people know what they're tuning in for.
Yeah.
I don't know how that makes any sense, but let's continue.
The playoffs.
But let me just say,
Yeah.
Congratulations, Joey.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's right. Since the last recording, I've had a baby.
Well, you haven't had a baby.
I've had a baby. My wife's had a baby.
Yeah.
So.
And luckily it looks just like him, so we know it's his.
Yeah, true. Very much like me. Yeah, so I've lived through newborn tiredness and disappointment in the playoffs. So it's been a good week, but also a bad week, So
Yeah, it's been a good week.
yeah, definitely. But I wish that my son was going to be born into this world and watch the Padres World Series win. But
Well, you openly have said before, I believe it was on this podcast, if we were to win the World Series when your son was being born, his middle name would have been Manny.
yeah, it's true. It'd be Manny. I'm not gonna say his name because I'm not gonna dox him. He's like 9 days old.
Yeah, he has that kind of pressure. Like, I'm less than 2 weeks old. Thanks, Dad. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But yeah, the final series the Padres played was against the Philadelphia Phillies in the National League Championship Series, and they lost, losing the series 4-1. Despite a great second game for the Padres, they were swept in Philadelphia and ending their season, getting to the NLCS, which is incredible in its own right, but just a step short of the final thing. I think we could recap the games. I'm not super interested in doing that because, if you're following our podcast, you also follow the games, especially the playoffs. And I think we have some thoughts about the playoffs in general, specifically the last two games. But first off, I want to say that the Phillies' offense was always going to be the toughest thing in this series.
Yes.
And it turned out to be the reason why they won. That offense is no joke. Bryce Harper is a dude, is top 5 player in baseball. And, they beat the Padres. They just did. There's no other way to put it. They just got beat by a very, very hot offense. And
when you take the series in a whole, we were just plain out beat. Yeah, there were some questionable decisions here and there, but they beat us fair and square. And you can't we said from the beginning, their offense is super potent. We had to play perfect defense and have better pitching. And for the exception of one starter, our starters all did a good job.
Yep.
I mean, they all only gave up around 3 runs, but again, their offense is just so potent. And yeah, like I said, I was just telling you before we started recording, I think we lost the series on the second game in Philadelphia opposed to the last game, because I legitimately think if we would have won any game in Philadelphia and went back to San Diego, we probably would have won the series, because we would have tired the Phillies out more, and we would have had the home crowd with Snell and Musgrove pitching the 7th game, that would have been great. But tip our caps to the Phillies. They I don't know. They're just best offense I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're just super, super hot. And, the difference also is that the first 2 series, the Mets and the Dodgers series, the 7, 8, 9 hitters for the Padres raked. They just flat out disappeared during the Phillies series. They did not produce at the same level. We just didn't slug altogether that much. And so that's the difference, That's the difference in the series, and it's a bummer. I wanted to go all the way. I really did. But, we should talk briefly about a couple things because people talk about it. I've talked about it. I would love to know your opinion on this. So you mentioned already the second game in Philly, game 4. It was a bullpen game for the Padres and the Phillies. I would love to know your thoughts because we came out 4-0 in the first inning, and we end up losing the game 10-5, 10-6,
yeah.
10-5. And I would love to know your thoughts about why specifically you thought that was like the game that lost the series.
We were against their terrible bullpen. I mean, if somehow the Phillies managed to win the World Series, it would be the biggest upset in the history of baseball because they have 2 good starters and a terrible bullpen. And it was against that terrible bullpen, hence why we jumped off to 4 runs right off the bat. But Clevenger, it wasn't supposed to be a pure bullpen game. Clevenger was supposed to give us 5 innings, and maybe Manaea giving us 2. But Clevenger didn't record an out. First time in his career, he never recorded an out in a start. So he completely just went away, and he has been struggling the entire last part of the season. That's not a secret. And then Manaea, who it seems like 1 out of every 3 starts is great. 1 out of 3 appearances are great, and this was not a good appearance. And it just...
Between Manaea and Clevenger, both gave 7 earned runs.
Yeah, and that was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
They did good jobs for us during the regular season, but they cost us that game, and that was the most winnable game for the Padres.
Yep.
Any team that could go up against that terrible bullpen and lose because our pitchers were worse, who shouldn't be worse. That was the worst game of the series. We went up 4-0 on a terrible. We knocked their starter out before the first inning. We knocked the next guy out in the next inning. We were just it was so terrible, and it was just that game was more heartbreaking to watch than the next game.
I agree with that. I mean, you don't expect those 2 guys to only give you 4 outs.
Yeah,
and give up 7 runs.
And one of them didn't give us any outs.
Yeah.
Manaea gave us 4 outs.
Right. I think to me the Clevenger thing made sense. You had to roll the gambit of like, we gotta get someone to do something. So I get it. You gotta between those 2, Manaea and Clevenger, you gotta get something out of them. It's an okay gambit to make. I don't mind it. Obviously, it worked badly. Manaea, there's a case to be made. So he came out in the first inning and did okay. And then we were up 6-4. We got up 6-4. And then Manaea came out for a second inning. And that's where, like, I understand why they did it. Because you just, especially Bob Melvin, the way he manages. A lot of people are mad, annoyed at Bob Melvin, but this is the way he manages. He wants to get the most out of every single player, and he wanted 2 innings from Manaea. Even though we were up, Manaea couldn't give it to him. So that bit us in the butt. And to me, you could make the case that maybe Bob should have gone for like a no one gets 2 innings the rest of the game strategy. And, Manaea and Clevenger are the worst pitchers in the bullpen. That's not an unfair statement, right?
Not at all.
So you couldn't make the case that the second inning when Manaea came out, he shouldn't have been there. And I don't know. I go back and forth on that because, yeah, I think you probably should have pulled him. We haven't talked about this yet, but Josh Hader was never used in Philadelphia. And you could have put him like the Phillies did. The Phillies brought their closer in the seventh inning to get their best part of the lineup out. And we could have done the same thing.
But their closer isn't really a closer.
Right. But they thought, hey, let's get the best three guys out, and we'll figure out the rest when we get there. But and instead, Melvin's like, we'll just have Manaea face these guys. We'll have Manaea face Hoskins.
Manaea has been a good pitcher in the past.
Yep.
And I also, that wasn't that late in the game. At that point, it was what, the third,
right.
Fourth inning?
Might be the fifth or sixth inning.
Because they knocked Clevenger out before he even got out. We brought Martinez in. Yeah. Martinez pitched 2 innings. That got us to the third. And then there was only the fifth inning when Manaea did that. You can't bring in. The thing is, like, why don't we bring in Hader? Garcia, Martinez, Suarez have all been lights out,
right? Just
like Hader has been. So you can't. It's hard to say why don't we just bring in Hader? Well, when we have unlike the Phillies who have one shutout guy, we have 4 shutdown guys, and we used Martinez earlier in the start to stop the bleeding in the first and shut them down, and then let's bring in Manaea. Let's give Manaea a big moment. I don't think has he ever even pitched in the playoffs before?
I'm sure with A's, I'm sure. Yeah, it just didn't work out. I mean, what you described is the philosophy that Bob Melvin has. And there's this philosophy of like, no, you got to just preserve a lead, and that's the motivator. And it's a different philosophy for managing the playoffs, right? The preservation of leads, and you must maintain the lead and use the best available resources right then, can bite you in the butt, right? But Bob Melvin is not that guy, right? And we'll talk about what's fine because of the season we've had. The fact of the matter is that Clevenger and Manaea blew that game. Not Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin would have been okay if they just gave up 4 runs, but they gave up 7 runs between them. So it's a bummer. In the final game, there's 2 calls that people are question. The first one is in the 8th inning. Robert Suarez is pitching, and Bryce Harper comes up. We're winning 3-2, and there's no outs and a run on first. And Bob Melvin chooses to leave Robert Suarez in to face Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper hits a ball 99 miles an hour on the outside part of the corner and hits a home run the opposite way, which is insane, but that's what Bryce Harper does. People are criticizing Melvin for why don't you bring Hader in there? It's lefty on lefty. What are we doing? What are your thoughts about that choice?
Well, I this isn't the biggest. I will back up this decision.
Yeah,
because although Bryce Harper hasn't hit Hader well, he has got hits off of Hader.
Right.
He's never got a hit off of Suarez. Also, do you know who the only reliever in the Padres bullpen who's never given up a home run to a left-handed batter this year was?
I'm going to assume it's Robert Suarez.
It's Robert Suarez. Robert Suarez was lights out to left-handers this year. So here's our best bullpen piece against lefties, and here's the best left-hand hitter in baseball. It's a gamble.
Right.
I mean,
right.
So yeah, you can't. And Hader never gets more than 4 outs. Yeah, maybe he'll pitch that 1 inning and we'll bring in Garcia for the 9th. That could have been doable as well. Right. But I think Bob Melvin was playing the numbers. Here is, again, our best reliever against left-handed hitters. Against the best left-handed hitter in baseball.
And Bryce Harper is
the best left-handed hitter in baseball. Yeah.
That changeup he sat on was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like that change, Robert Suarez's changeup he threw right before it was in the zone 95% of the time and just dips out, and Bryce Harper just sits on it. Like, what are we doing? And then the next, his home run, that was a great pitch that Suarez made, but it was an even better swing.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
99% of the time, he throws that pitch to any other left-handed hitter.
Yeah.
That's a swing and a miss.
To me, I agree. And I agree. I think it's also, if we think about playoff logic, Robert Suarez is one of the main reasons we're at that game.
Oh, I agree.
He was incredible in the Mets series and the Dodgers series. And so you're just going to play that hot hand. And that's a very playoff logic thing to do, right? And I think it's just, it's the optics are we never using Hader is a bummer. And because of the result, we're just like, we should use Hader. But I think it's the right decision. I just had a bad result. The biggest, saddest thing, of course, about Robert Suarez giving up that home run was that he now owns the first loss of the season and the final loss of the season.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. And the final weird decision was Trent Grisham came up in the top of the ninth, and the runners in first and second, 1 out, and he decided to bunt. 2 outs away from our season ending, he bunts a sacrifice hit. Second and third now, Austin Nola pops out. I don't really like that move at all. I wish he would have swung. I know this series, he was he was tough. He was worse. I would just rather him find a hole. He was swinging the bat well beforehand. Let him swing. So I don't know. That to me bugged me, but he's also like he's been a great bunter. So I don't know. It just bugged me.
My criticism is not against the bunt. All right, he hasn't been pitching really well. He hasn't been hitting. He didn't hit at all this series. Get the runners over, 2 outs left, a single, ties, and go ahead run. My problem is Austin Nola was up at bat.
Yeah,
Austin Nola, even though he still hit well during the Phillies series. He didn't hit as well as he did in the Dodgers and Mets series, but he was the best hitter in the 7, 8, 9. And so I get play the hot hand, but you have Jorge Alfaro in the dugout who didn't play at all during the postseason, who has 5 walk-offs during the regular season.
Right.
The man lives for that.
right.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all why Jorge Alfaro didn't pinch hit. That's my biggest thing. Like, come on. I get it. Nola is a real good poke hitter, and all we were looking for was a single. But only one of Alfaro's walk-offs was a home run, a double, and a couple singles, and a walk for a walk-off. Because, yes, Alfaro swings at anything unless the game was on the line.
Yep.
The game is on the line. He looks like he's a completely different hitter.
Yep, I agree.
And so that's my biggest thing, that we left Alfaro on the bench during that last at bat. And so like I said, that's my only criticism is Alfaro not hitting. But again, I get it because Nola had been pretty clutch all postseason.
Right.
And he didn't even, and also Nola, the first pitch he pops out. I don't know. That was my biggest issue was the not pinch hitting, because I'm okay with the bunt. I'm okay with running him over because Grisham also has a tendency to ground out to double plays, and that would have been heartbreaking. That's my only biggest complaint about that game. But again, I think we lost that series the game before.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about the playoffs, James, before we move to look back at the season?
We ended the season in the final round of the playoffs. Yeah, obviously we want to win the World Series every year. But ending the series in the final round of the playoffs, one of the 4 best teams in baseball, I ultimately, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I agree. And our core is so good now. We're getting better players next year. Can we talk about him yet?
We can't talk about him. The season's over. I will no longer bleep out anytime any one of us says Fernando Tatis Jr.
Okay, good. We're getting Tatis back. Game on April 20th. We've knocked some games off of suspension. That's a huge... I mean, imagine having a top 5 MVP finalist in the lineup during that series. It's a huge game changer, right? Like, I liked our lineup a lot this year, especially near the end. Most especially near the end. But having Tatis would be a game changer, and so I'm super excited about that. And I think you're right. Like, we've got so far, despite what a wacky season we had, you know. And you texted me the season was a B plus, and I agree with that.
Yeah, if we would have made it to the World Series, it would have been an A.
Yeah,
won the World Series, A plus.
Right.
Losing the series, losing your final game in the final playoff game, the final playoff series, that's a B plus season.
Right. I agree.
And considering our last season was an F, and you wrote down a list of all the things the Padres had to overcome this year.
Yeah. So I mean, Joe Musgrove said a point is like, I don't think people even want us to be here in the like. They always interview all the players after they lose, and it's informative. Sometimes it's a little like self-indulgent, to be honest, for the media to be like, "Hey, sad boy, tell me sad things." Like,
you did not just go to the World Series. What are you gonna do next? I'm gonna eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs and cry.
Joe Musgrove's a professional and now has stepped up to be a leader in the clubhouse. Has said, you know, we went pretty far. Obviously, the stings, but most of us didn't. It felt like most of the media and people didn't want us even to be here. So he said he'll.
I mean, was he listening to the broadcast? I can't imagine where he got that idea.
Right. Apart from the Dodgers series, every broadcast has been trashed towards the Padres, which is not a surprise. It was surprising in the Dodgers series that crew was actually fairly neutral, which was cool. But
considering half the broadcast team were Dodgers broadcasters, which was like, what is this nonsense?
But yeah, he brought up the fact of like we had a crazy season that we still ended up here. Here are a few things that happened this season. Going all the way back during spring training, we had no closer. Remember that? We had no closer?
Yeah.
And then the day before the start of the season, we traded for Taylor Rogers. We sent Amelia Pagan and Chris Paddock. Chris Paddock, at some point this year, James, was a member of the 2022 Padres. So was Amelia Pagan. Somehow, we traded for Taylor Rogers the day before opening day. And we got a new closer. We also traded for Sean Manaea a couple days before opening day. Get another starter. And, you know, that's a pretty wild thing to just throw in the mix. Bob Melvin was out for 20 days with health issues. He had surgery. Profar was out for 10 days with concussion protocol. Drury was out 10 days with concussion protocol. Manny hurt his ankle and was out for 8+ days. How long was that? Is that actually 10 days?
It was about, well, he played throughout, he missed 8 games, but he was pretty much hurt for a month.
Eric Hosmer, remember him? He was part of our team this year. Lost us 2 games because the defense is so terrible. He was there.
I love that's not even like, yeah, we also had him.
We traded for Luke Voigt. We traded away Luke Voigt and Eric Hosmer. Added Juan Soto, Brendan Drury,
Josh Bell,
and
Josh
Hader. Thank you. Hader was terrible when we got him. really bad.
Yes, he was.
And then somehow Ruben Niebla turned the worst pitcher in baseball into the best relief pitcher in baseball, which is cool. I think that's a very cool thing.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that part, him being better. Oh, and then Fernando Tatis Jr. was suspended. Any one of those things would often derail a fragile Padres season. But it didn't. Also, I didn't write this down. September, we were really bad. First part of September, we were pretty terrible. and we lost to a rookie pitcher in Arizona, and Bob Melvin sat down with his team and yelled at them and said, "You're horrible. You need to be better." And guess what? They were better. So much better, they end up in the LCS. And all in all, like, a crazy amount of things happened this year. But, ended up as far as we did. It's mostly a testament to Bob Melvin.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
All of everyone's criticism about Bob Melvin's decision making, the only reason why we're there is because of Bob Melvin.
Right.
All we have to do is look back at last year when we were this hot team in the beginning of the season, and we started to struggle. And the team started falling apart because the leadership wasn't there. I like Jace Tingler. I thought he was way better than Andy Green. But Jace Tingler was a rookie manager, and he could not bring those guys together.
Yeah, we had a similar... James and I have many times aired out our anxiety about this season. Because we're always like, is this when it's all going to fall apart? Is this... Because we're just so, traumatized.
2021 traumatized us.
Right. And I can't help but wonder, like, if Bob Melvin managed a 2021 team, how much different that season would have become. It may not have, because we had no starting pitching at the end.
By September, all of our starters were hurt.
Yeah.
Except for Joe Musgrove. And it was like we'd win 1 out of every 5 games because Musgrove would start. Yeah, it's hard to say.
And also, this season, we had such a crazy amount of things go down. Tons of roster moves in and out. And, end up as far as we did. It's awesome. And there's also a testament to it's Bob Melvin and all of our starting pitchers being healthy. It was a huge bonus, right?
I legitimately think the 6-man rotation we had the first 4 months of the season did a lot to keep our guys healthy through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. You think about a team that's... we had Robinson Cano on our team. We had C.J. Abrams. We had Mackenzie Gore. Tons of... Matt Beatty was on our team.
Yeah, I remember
Nomar
that
Mazara.
guy.
It's your favorite guy. Matt Beatty's your favorite.
I forgot about Nomar Mazara. Oh, my goodness.
He was supposed to be our lefty power bat. And all he was a lefty singles hitter, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Just not what you want. You want him to hit home runs.
Tony Gwynn was a lefty single hitter, but Tony Gwynn could get 4 hits a game.
Right.
Suarez could get 4 hits every 2 weeks. Not Suarez, Marzara.
Yeah, and then I don't know. It's a pretty wild season, and we ended as far as we did. It's just you just have the tip of the cap, right? And they provide some very fun games this year. And, I'm going to think about that Dodger NLDS series almost every day of my life.
Every person I know that is a Dodger fan, granted, I don't know them well because they are Dodger fans. You can't really trust them. I have brought up to the fact that, how's it like? Sorry, I just choke a little bit.
It's just going to be another layer of like salt on each side of the non-rivalry, right, that exists.
What was that tweet? I can't remember who posted it. It said, I have a newfound respect for Dodger fans because we lost in a heartbreaking to the playoffs. I can't imagine how you guys have been able to do that for 13 straight years.
Oh my goodness.
That was great.
But yeah. But let's move to do a little bit of a fun retrospective, James. Who have been your MVPs this year? Let's go this. Let's do MVP, unsung hero, and least valuable player. We're not gonna be mean, are we?
No, we could do that. Save that to the end.
Okay. Okay. Who's your MVP of the season, and who's your unsung hero?
My MVP of the season is obviously Manny Machado.
Yeah,
he was our offense for the first several months of the season. Yeah, there was other people contributed here and there, but Manny was the presence in the offense. And so Manny Machado, definitely. He should get a considerable amount of votes for regular MVP, for the league MVP, although he won't win because the writers hate Manny Machado, as evident by the fact that he wasn't even in a finalist for Gold Gloves, even though he had the highest fielding percentage and fewer errors than all the other people on that list. That's just...
Hey, man, Juan Soto's a Gold Glove finalist.
I know. Well, I don't... Who's ever over in Rawlings right now,
Yeah.
your grandkids can't take over, all right? I don't know what kind of favor was given to somebody. There's clearly some sort of nepotism
Right.
idiocy going on over there. But, so, I think Manny Machado, my unsung hero this year is Nick Martinez.
Yeah.
It's definitely Nick Martinez. The man did everything we asked him to do. He was a good starter for us. He was a phenomenal reliever for us. Any situation we needed him to be in, whether it started or closer, he did everything for us and he did it well. I think the man deserves to be a starter next year again. It's a phenomenal pitcher. And much like Nabil Krismet last year was the guy that just did everything in the bullpen, Nabil Krismet also could be up there, but I think Martinez just give a little bit more just phenomenal. He was so happy to be in the majors. He did whatever we wanted him to be, and he did it well. And I think that was, and above well, he was great at it.
Yep.
And so he is the unsung hero for me.
My MVP, obviously Manny deserves it, but I also think I'm going to shout out my boy Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish has had a wild career of coming from Japan and just being like a crazy strikeout pitcher, having to reinvent himself after his Dodger tenure. And now it's just like the definition of a pitching workhorse. Can give you 6 to 7 innings consistently, less than 3 runs. And so, there are times in which we needed a stopper, and he was the guy. He was the guy to stop the bleeding, give us a 7-inning game with 1 run. A couple times he pitched perfectly into 5th and 6th inning this year. And, I think weirdly, the Padres starting pitching is so underrated across baseball. And he's also crazy underrated because he's just, the kind of pitching he does isn't what people look as like incredible, an incredible pitcher because he didn't have high strikeout numbers, but he just pitches to weak contact and gets good results. And, he's pitched so many quality innings for us this year, and we wouldn't have gone far without him. And that's why I shout out to him. And even like the games he started in this, in the final games, right? Like he didn't give that many runs, and it's just the offense didn't pick him up.
Exactly.
And so he's my MVP. Unsung hero. I want to say Ha-Sung Kim, but I don't know if he's unsung. I think people say that he's obviously had huge shoes to fill, filling Fernando's shoes. I'm gonna still give it to him because that is such a crazy hard position to fill. Not just literally the shortstop position, but you're talking about a guy who leads top 5 jersey sales in the world in baseball. Tatis Jr., a guy that has tons of prestige, who has this huge contract, and you're just supposed to fill that position. And he had a fine offensive season, but an incredible defensive season, clutch base running. And, during the first 2 series of the playoffs, did very, very well. Had a huge double in the Dodgers series. And we wouldn't have gotten that far without him fully owning the role and embracing and being better, embracing himself for who he is. And so that's why Ha-Sung Kim is my unsung hero.
Can't argue with that. And also, he got so much national recognition. There was so many, MLB did a bunch of pieces on him during the playoffs. Who is this guy?
Right.
I mean, he basically hit just above league average, but his defense, he's one of the top 3 fielders in all of baseball.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I love that Petco loves him. I love that everyone chants his name. The playoff chants of Ha-Sung Kim are pretty awesome.
Yes.
Those are definitely some of the moments I remember from this playoffs, is It's just the audio, or what people like taking videos outside the stadium of them of people chanting Hassan Kim because it's so loud. That's gonna be pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Who's your least valuable player of 2022, James? We won't stick on this bit for too long, but I feel like you and I are going to echo this sentiment.
My least valuable player is not who you think it is.
Okay.
Because he did have a hot first month.
He always has a hot first month. Red Sox, okay. Indulge us for just 1 second, listeners. The Red Sox fans are going to think that he's the best, right?
Yeah.
Come May 1st, they're going to be like, what do you mean, San Diego? You're paying us $30 million for this guy who hits 420?
We won the trade. Hold on.
Oh, my gosh. Go ahead, James.
So I don't think it's him. The player that probably cost us the most, it would have to be the pieces that we were supposed to be good off the bench. It would be the Beatties.
Yeah.
It would be the Robertson Canoes.
Yeah, we never solved getting a good lefty bat off the bench this whole entire season.
Yeah. So Matt Beatty. It's just like, what the heck?
Just
even Nomar Mazara was a great defender.
Right.
Beatty just you couldn't rely on him to do anything.
Right.
He couldn't catch the ball, hit the ball. I see the ball. I don't. I mean, he's wearing those thick glasses. I don't. I don't. He was probably the least productive player on the Padres team this year. Did he lose us games? No. But would it have been nice if we would have had a consistent left-handed batter off the bench? Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's Eric Hosmer.
I knew it was going to be. Much like I took Manny, and you're like, oh, I probably want to take you, Darvish. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Joey Hosmer.
You know, here's the thing. I don't want to harp on this guy too much. I mean, there's like hours of me harping on him, so I guess this is whatever.
At one point during I think it was June, we said let's not talk about it for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
because and I was bleeping his name out.
Yeah, he's such a terrible defender, and has lost us 2 games. And I kept thinking throughout the entire season how better I felt in September if we won 2 more games. And I just would have felt way better, right? We'd have clinched earlier, we'd have rested more, whatever. But man, oh man, like he just stopped hitting, didn't field well, and this is the real reason why I chose him, is that as the last 24 hours has told us, he is now blocking tons of Padre fans, Red Sox fans, and national media writers on Twitter. Just blocking them. If you have said anything bad about Eric Hosmer, and he's noticed, because apparently he name searches himself on Twitter, which, Eric, I know you listen to this podcast for some reason. Stop doing that, buddy. Stop looking up your own name.
No good can come from reading internet posts.
Mike Trout gets haters, okay? Bryce Harper gets haters. That's just a part of the game, okay? Don't name search yourself on Twitter. And then don't block 900 people like every hour on Twitter. You and I, James, are not blocked by him. We're part of the unblocked. I don't know. Once you listen to this podcast, we're definitely going to be
definitely going to be blocked because the podcast will be called The Brothers Padre. We hate Eric Hosmer. But we're not.
I think it's just that. Just Charmin soft, very soft behavior. And I just wish I wanted more from him. I think least value is a weird thing. I expected more. I expected more of our organization to find a better left-handed bat. It's not Mazara's fault or Beatty's fault that, they're terrible, right? They didn't provide what we needed. Eric Hosmer was left-handed, and he also was bad off the bench, right? So, but we paid him $30 million a year. So expectations are different, and he just never met the expectations, and he proved to be someone who hates other people on Twitter. So that's why he gets my least valuable player. But whatever. He's worth more than you and I have ever earned in our lives. Ever will earn. So
Yeah.
who's the real loser?
Yeah. Still him.
Oh, Jamesy James. What a season, James.
I know it. Let's just recap our favorite moments of the season. I mean, come on. It's just
You go, then I go. We'll go back and forth a few times.
every time Afaro walked it off during the regular season.
Gosh, yeah.
The first time when he got that 3-run home run on Mother's Day, and he accidentally said, "Let's effing go San Diego." And look at his face like, "Oh, I just swore on national TV." Just how that became a slogan was awesome. All of his walk-off hits were always dramatic and great. That's my first one.
I love when Manny was slumping after post-ankle interview, and someone asked, like, basically, are you going to be okay? And he said, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I'm Manny effing Machado. And like a day later, he walks, gets a 3-run home run off a Giant to walk it off. And to me, it was just like, oh, Manny is a badass. Like, oh, my bad. Like, he really is that guy.
Yeah.
And that was super fun.
It's difficult because there were so many great seasons, but you and I talked about it because this whole season we were caught on pins and needles waiting for the collapse.
Right.
But I also just love how consistent Joe Musgrove was all year.
Yep.
And yeah, he stumbled a little bit in June, but he managed to right the ship. He managed to bring it home. We gave him a big contract extension. I love Joe Musgrove's consistently coming out because he did what we wanted him to do.
He struck out Aaron Judge in the All-Star game. That was cool. I really, really enjoyed this is gonna sound weird, but like having like such positive energy at Petco going there, and everyone was just post 2020, 2021. It just felt like a nice return to normalcy, and Petco was just everyone there was just super excited for the Padres. We had broke attendance records there, and that 2021 did not end well, and for Padres fans to show up, that was pretty cool.
Another moment that I liked, you talked about before, when we were in that slump.
Yeah.
Everyone said Bob Melvin yelled at everybody, which was the first time he's ever done that. Then they had a managers meeting, the players meeting, where they wrote "burn the ships" on the whiteboard, and they just picked it up. The fact that they were able to right the ship so much was encouraging for next season and seasons to come, and just proves to me they have great leadership. That's another one.
The 72 hours of the trade deadline
my God,
was super nerve-wracking for you and I because we're way too invested in this. From the Dodgers are going to get Soto, the Cardinals are going to get Soto, to, we got Josh Hader. Like, what? Oh, my gosh. And then, I remember this, it's so stupid, I remember this so well. But I'm getting glasses the day. Like, I'm checking Twitter like a crazy person. Like, and then you come over the morning of the end of it's the final day of the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And then you and I are like texting back and forth. Is this tweet official? Is this tweet? Because it comes in that Juan Soto is close to being acquired by the Padres. And you and I both don't trust anything anyone ever says. Cause,
the whole Max Scherzer thing from the year before ruined everything.
And, and then like the doubleheader that day where the Padres just played super well because they're all thrilled. It was a wild mixture of emotions because we lost Luke Voigt, also lost Eric Hosmer, lost C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Robert Hassel. Like, they're all good players that we like, you and I both like. But then we got Juan Soto and Josh Bell. It was a crazy time period. And then that followed up with, trade, the first game past the trade deadline day, whatever you want to call that. And that game was crazy. Brandon Drury's first pitch as a Padre hits a grand slam. It was a fun 72 hours. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I was going to bring up that game as one of my favorite moments.
My bad. Yeah.
Because I was at that game, and I was the most electric I'd ever seen Petco Park until the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And just everyone was freaking out that we had Juan Soto, Josh Bell, and Brandon Drury. Juan Soto gets a walk his first at bat as a Padre.
Of course he does.
Josh Bell gets a walk. And then Brandon Drury, the first pitch he ever sees as a Padre is a grand slam.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That's clearly one of the best games of the year, one of the best moments of the year. That welcome to San Diego, guys. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
I'm going to name a playoff one, and you got to name a playoff one. So,
okay.
It's the Musgrove Mets game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm getting goosey just talking about it. It's one of those games, the bravado, like he had. So we talked about it in the podcast we recapped the Mets series. Buck Showalter famously says, hey, his ears are too shiny. He's pitching with too much velocity and too much spin rate, so he must be cheating by touching his ears. It's the fifth inning, and they're losing by 4-0.
They only had one hit.
Right. And they stop the entire game, and the umpires touch him and touch his ears, touch his hair. And Joe Musgrove shoves for 2 straight more innings. And he makes a hand gesture towards the Mets dugout. It's not obscene, but it's very obscene. And just the amount of bravado and just like, yeah, come get me. You think I'm cheating? Well, I'm just going to be better. And he does. Just lights out. Only gives up one hit. It was a one-hitter that game. That game, Padres won 6-0, only allowing one hit, and just slammed the door on the New York Mets. And that was just, oh man, it was the game that it's probably Musgrove's best game of his career, besides his no-hitter, right? And just, it's so awesome that he can rise to that moment. And it just, we watched that game together. I was like, this is crazy. This is just insane. But I just, you can't help but love Joe Musgrove more.
Oh, I know.
After that moment.
Especially, so did you see that after this, all those fans were waiting, over 500 fans were waiting at Petco Park at midnight on Sunday when they came home? Did you see all the...
yeah, I saw the videos. Yeah.
Did you see that where Joe Musgrove was just pulling out gear and giving
that's awesome.
People signed gear? And the news interviewed this little girl, and she was holding one of his shoes, which is like
awesome.
Half the size of the girl. Yeah, so Joe Musgrove came up to me and was like, hey, do you think you'll grow into these? And he borrowed a pen, and he signed his cleats, and he gave me his cleats, and this is my prized possession.
That's awesome.
How old are you? I'm 9. I don't think I'll ever sell. I'll never get rid of him. I love him so much. Just sitting there holding this giant shoe. Yeah, Joe Musgrove, phenomenal. I think I know what both of our number ones in the playoffs is going to be. I loved all the images of Will Myers buying drinks for everybody in San Diego.
Yeah.
Will Myers, after we clinched against the Dodgers, went to half a dozen different bars, bought everybody drinks. At one point, he's behind the bar, and apparently he just told the bartender he'll buy all these bottles, and he just got pouring shots for people. And him and Will Myers and his wife went to bar to bar to bar and bought everybody alcohol. That was phenomenal. I know it wasn't a moment in the playoffs, but it was a part of the playoffs, and I loved that moment.
Yeah, I think, We'll have more podcasts about what happens to this team afterwards. We don't really know because there's still the World Series happening, and a lot of stuff has to move because Will Myers' future is in question. But to see him lean into this as being very, you can just tell he's very thankful for the city, and that was super cool to see. But the number one moment was that it's a tie between the Cronenworth single to Bryven, the winning 2 runs, which is capped off by the incredible seventh inning by the Padres versus the Dodgers, and Josh Hader striking out Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, and Freddie Freeman to move on to the NLCS, beating the Dodgers.
Like I said, the number one moment of the playoffs was us beating the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that filled up beating the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Just it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That come from behind 5-run inning, outstanding. Just the crowd.
Robert Suarez's eighth inning.
Yeah.
Hader's incredible ninth inning. The crowd going insane. Yeah.
Let's talk about the fact that also probably some of the worst called games I've ever seen in the playoffs.
They're pretty terrible.
Josh Hader technically pitched an immaculate inning because he got a ball on Turner, which wasn't a ball. And he struck Betts out in 3 pitches. He would have struck out Turner on 3 pitches, and he struck out Freeman on 3 pitches.
Just like the textbook definition of dominance.
Yeah.
And that's followed up by Robert Suarez's like dominant eighth inning. I mean, but Hader's was like, oh my gosh. There are 2 former MVPs and someone who could potentially be an MVP finalist.
Yeah.
He just strikes them out. It was awesome. That seventh inning. I've watched those highlights. I've watched highlights a lot from these series, and just it was a pretty magical season, all things considered. Gave us lots of memories as Padre fans. Gave us a lot to build from and a lot to expect, which is all you can expect and hope for from watching a sports team to have it be enjoyable, and they did that in spades.
Yeah, that was the best moment. That was the best moment of the year.
Yeah,
that was having gone 5-15 or 5-14 against the Dodgers all year, which is always terrible to lose to the Dodgers.
Right.
To be a part of their legacy of sucking into playoffs, where
it's awesome.
They had the most wins of all baseball, and you like the arrogance off that team is so thick, it's hard to walk through. Their fans are some of the cockiest and most arrogant people that have no right to be, because their team can't seem to win when it matters. And to be a part of that, especially to be a part of the team they don't consider to be a rival, was brilliant. You know what was really great? I watched a bunch of reactions on YouTube to San Francisco Giant fans.
Yeah.
Thank you, San Diego Padres. Thank you so much. You've become I will root for the Padres forever now, unless they play the Giants. But thank you, San Diego. Thank you for beating the Dodgers.
That's awesome.
And I watched Diamondbacks fans reacting to it. Oh, they beat the Dodgers. I hate the Padres so much because they always beat up on us, but they beat the Dodgers. And Rockies fans are like, thank you. I saw like this Rockies podcast I listened to where they're just talking about how great it was to watch. It would have been better if the Rockies done it, but It was great to see the Padres beat the Dodgers. It was so great because everybody hates them. Everyone hates their fans. They're the worst people on the planet. I could go on. So I will. They're terrible. They smell funny. they drink too much. They beat their wives. It's just, they're all the worst people.
James, what a season. What a season. We lived and died this season a little bit with this team. And yeah, it was sad.
And we can't underestimate. Jake Cronenworth deserves props. Best defensive second baseman in the league. Will Myers, even though he was hurt most of the year, came back and was phenomenal defense. And like Jerickson Profar was better in left field than any of us ever thought he could be.
Yep.
There's so many every player did great jobs. Jorge Alfaro, Suarez, Pierce Johnson coming back when he didn't, being shut out dominance in the playoffs as well. Just there's so many great people that we had. Snell being Snellzilla, Darvish, Musgrove, all of our starters. Even Manaea and Clevenger had really good starts this year.
Yep.
Mackenzie Gore. I think Mackenzie Gore is going to be a thorn in the Major League Baseball side for a very long time because he definitely has the stuff. I just like there's so many. This year, it felt more of a team effort than the previous years have. It was like, oh, we have to rely on these 5 stars. It was everybody. Manny Machado was the front runner, but everybody else had to contribute, and it was great.
I agree. I want to thank you, all the fans of our podcast, to listen to us. Appreciate you guys sticking with us, listening to the podcast, and for another crazy season.
After the playoffs, after the World Series is over, there's going to be a general managers meeting in San Diego. Then we're going to do another podcast talking about who the Padres need to sign, all that kind of stuff. But right now, we just want to celebrate 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also just, give us a little break. Because, it's been a wild year, and I'm just thankful we got this far, and I'm excited to look for the roster next year. I'm pretty excited for next year, but we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about who's going to be opting out, who's opting in, who can we sign, and other fun stuff as well.
And I think Austin Nola put it best, and this is where the biggest heartbreak comes. Not that we lost the playoffs, is that the season's over.
Yep.
Because it was such a fun team to watch and root for all year. And it was fun to be a part of the Padre fandom again. Just everyone, San Diego County, everyone's wearing Padre hats.
Yep.
People that are on national, like YouTubers from all across the country, are wearing Padre hats. Because they're such a fun team to root for. And the hardest thing is that, it's over. We don't get to watch the Padres play anymore. Like, I would, if the season would have lasted another 11 games or whatever. Like, hey, we beat a bunch of 101. Let's go beat up the Yankees now. They won 100 games.
Right.
That's the hardest part is that it's over. Like, it was such a fun season to watch. It was like Austin Nola said, that's the hardest part, that it's over. That we don't get to play anymore.
Yep. But until next time, James, go Padres.
Go Padres.
There it is! Oh, doctor! You can hang a star on that, baby!